Lito, y'all, Chimichugma. This is Chief Steve coming at y'all with another episode of True Story. And this is just continuing on from where we had left off. We're here in the First Americans, 1607 to 1690, a book by Thomas Jefferson Werdenbaker, 1879 to 1966, publication date 1927. Just wanted to continue on and finish this, I guess you can call this part two. We're going to finish off this where we had left off, where it says the cultivation of tobacco. I got a little passionate, you know what I mean? So I didn't finish everything that I wanted to say, and I got to my 45-minute mark. I don't want to make videos too much further than 45 minutes because, I don't want to keep y'all too long. You know what I mean? So I know y'all got things to do and stuff. I do too. But when it comes to this information and stuff, man, it's something that, you can't help but get into and really have to sort things out for what they are, you know. So I showed you guys the tobacco Indians. I showed you guys who are really running the economy out here, who helped put these colonies on game and really gave England a reason to continue to come out here and do what they did, exploit the land. But obviously what they were trying to do out here was not working, still not working. And once again, they depended upon us, just like they do today. They depended upon us back then to basically bail them out and bring them their new ideas and, give them all the means and ways to flourish while they take credit for it, of course. But without not going into that too deep, we're going to finish off this little part that I wanted to finish off in the last video, but I'm going to make sure I'm finishing it off right now. And then we're going to get ready for the next installment. But here we go. So I'll just give you this last sentence right here. And then we're going to keep going. So it says, before the end of the third decade of the 17th century, which we know is 1630, Virginia had given up all immediate hopes of producing the commodities England needed, okay, and had turned her energies into the cultivation of tobacco. It had to be done. They couldn't cultivate anything else. Plus, the Indians were making it hard for them. Okay, we were making it hard for them. We broke their stuff, destroyed their furnaces and different things of that nature. We didn't want them on our land, really. But when we saw that they were into the trading business and they were trying to, get a little action going that way, we showed them we put them on some game, which was the cultivation of tobacco. They would not have known how to cultivate tobacco had it not been for the American Indian, had it not been for the copper-colored aborigines of this landmass, showing them the ways and the means to do things. Okay, so we're going to keep going forward here. It says, Hakluyt and his fellow publicists had failed to realize that the infant colonies could not hope to compete with the long-established industries of other countries unless possessed of some outstanding advantage in soil or other resources. Virginia lacked skilled labor. Virginia lacked skilled labor. The people that were coming out here lacked skilled labor, especially such as would work at a reasonable wage. Okay, it had been expected that the colony would avail itself of the surplus population of England to supply her needs. In this way, idle hands could be set to work producing the raw materials, the lack of which was chiefly responsible for unemployment in England. So were they looking to go get people from Africa? No. And I'm going to keep beating the dead horse with a bat. Did they try to get anybody from Africa? No. Why would they go somewhere to go get that obviously they don't know how to cultivate this stuff. They're not skilled in this labor. Why would some place that's lacking skilled labor go to another place where there are other unskilled laborers to come back here and do something that requires skill? It doesn't make any sense. It didn't happen. That's why. Okay? Don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you the true story here. All right? It says, but the man who was classed as cheap labor in England In England, the moment he set foot on the soil of Virginia, became dear labor. Okay? So those who were working minimum wage out there in England decided to pick up their stuff and come out here, get sponsored by the company, by the London company, come out here and basically start working for a better labor because they were more valued and cherished out here because this place was just beginning. It was just starting cultivation. It was just starting to establish itself. So they wanted as many skilled laborers as they could get. And obviously, if they were lacking skilled laborers, that means that we weren't working for their asses either. We were the ones that were manufacturing and cultivating. Yeah. And then we're giving them, as you saw in that last video that I showed on that image on there in 1603 or 1613, I believe, or 1614 rather. We were giving them tons of, literally tons of tobacco to send back to England. We were distributing. We were distributors. We were manufacturers. You know what I mean? But we weren't just slaves. We weren't slaves at all. We weren't sitting there, didn't nobody have us under no whip and chain and telling us, you better cultivate that tobacco, boy. You better get them stuff out there and get on that ship and go do what you're supposed to do before I crack that whip on you. They weren't doing that shit. We were running things here. They didn't even know what tobacco was until they came out here and talked to us. They seen us. They saw what this was. They partook and they interacted, they intermingled with our people. We welcomed them with open arms. And we showed them, sorry about that, we showed them what tobacco was. We shared it with them and they were like, oh snap, okay, we gotta show this. I mean, we can't produce the stuff that we want to produce out here. So let's take this to the king and see how he like it. And then shit, after that he wanted more of it. And then after that he wanted all the land. You see how that worked? But they had nothing when they came out here. They didn't even have a whip and a chain to put on us when they came out here. They had nothing. But we gave them everything. All right? The voyage across the Atlantic was long and expensive, and the colonies at no time were able to secure workers enough for their needs. Let me read that again. The voyage across the Atlantic was long and expensive. Long and expensive. And the colonies at no time were able to secure workers enough for their needs. So tell me, how the hell did they get other people from Africa to bring in people? This is the 1600s. This is past 1619 at this point. This is 1630 and beyond. Africans are supposed to be coming left and right throughout these colonies, right? I mean, 500,000, right? At least 500,000. So they supposed to be coming in like clockwork. You're supposed to be seeing a ship docking every hour, on the hour, right? For all these slaves to come out through here. But the Atlantic was long and expensive. The voyage was long and expensive. It sounds like they were broke. Sounds like they didn't have anything. And the colonies at no time were able to secure workers enough for their needs. They couldn't even bring their own countrymen out here half the time. That's why they needed sponsorships from the crown and these other different companies in order to, and then go into an indentured servitude in order to pay the debt off. And all the indentured servitude was just to continue to produce more raw resources for the crown. And once you did enough and you got your rations, you got your portions, then you can be free to roam this country. Within the confines of the colony, of course. But you see that? Where are the Africans at? Where are the Africans at? Virginia found that she could not compete with the Baltic nations in producing ship stores, potash, and iron, and was forced to devote herself almost exclusively to tobacco, for which her soil and climate were so wonderfully suited. The result in New England were even more disappointing. The Massachusetts Bay Company, especially after the transfer of the charter to America, especially after the transfer of the charter to America, especially after the transfer of the charter to America, was less national in character than the Virginia Company. They, come on, y'all. It concerned itself with the prosperity of Massachusetts rather than with that of England. So once they got out here, they were like, man, forget what the crown want. We gotta find a way to survive. And got all these people out here trying to do this, and we need to try to figure out how to survive for ourselves. It would have been glad to produce the materials needed by the old country had it been profitable to do so, but it wasn't because they were broke. But it had no idea of repeating the costly experiments which had been made on the James. The first concern of the Puritan settlers was to ensure an ample food supply. They had no food when they came out here. They had no food, people, when they came out here. My Nijis, how can somebody hungry and starving enslave another nation and bring them all the way out there with them and just have they couldn't even eat. They didn't even have enough to feed themselves. And the voyage was so long and expensive, and they had so little food. How was they going to feed a whole bunch of Africans on top of themselves and bring them out here? Come on now. And for a number of years, agriculture absorbed much of their interests. You know why? Because they had to learn from the Indian how to cultivate, how agriculture out here worked. We fed them. We showed them how to live out here. In after years, when they actually turned to the production of mast, timber, pitch, and cordage, it was more to supply their own shipbuilders than those of England. New England never assumed the place intended for her in the British colonial system, and so far from supplementing and aiding English industries to a large degree paralleled and competed with them. Okay? So at this point, now they trying to build and establish their own stuff. They got their own thing going, and now they, so England's plan is just going to shit at this point. Though the ambition of England to plant colonies in North America was gratified, though the foundations of her empire were securely laid, and we understand that now because look at the foundation of the United States. What are we doing now that England was doing back then? Having all of our resources cultivated and made in other different foreign places, our oil, our gas. You hear me? All of that stuff is being made and manufactured overseas and brought out here. That's something that we never really did as American Indians. We had our own quarries out here. We had our own mines out here. We were doing our own resources out here. And we knew how to survive off of those resources out here. It was the foreigners, it was the settlers that came here that did not know shit about anything out here. And later on, we were the ones building the railroads and trains. We were doing all that. Kendrick tried to tell y'all. All right, I ain't gonna get into that. I'm just saying. Come on now. I'm just talking to you. Let's run it back. Though the ambition of England to plant colonies in North America was gratified, Though the foundations of her empire were securely laid, she failed in her chief end. The colonies eventually proved for her a means to prosperity and wealth. They absorbed her manufactured goods, stimulated her carrying trade, aided the royal revenue, and supplied her with articles for foreign export, those articles being tobacco. But for many decades, they failed to furnish the raw stuff she needed to free her from dependence upon foreign imports. England was already depending on foreigners from different they were already depending on other different countries to supply her with her needs. And they were trying to get us to do the same thing. They were basically doing the same thing out here in this landmass. But that doesn't sound like a rich country at all. That doesn't sound like a prosperous nation at all. You got to depend on others. You got to depend on others, and that's how this country is going on right now. This was going on with this country right now. This country has weakened because it is still set upon the foundations of its mother. And now it's starting to make the same mistakes that its mother made. This corporation. Because England very much still has a play in everything that's happening in the United States. It's the reason why the United States is a corporation. Just like the London Company. Just like the Virginia Company. You hear me? As for the economic and social structures of the various colonies, so far from following the plans mapped out for them in advance for their settlement, they were shaped by their own peculiar conditions of climate, soil, and geography. So in other words, they had to cope. They had to adjust to here, to Turtle Island. They weren't just going to come out here. That's why I said same thing like how I said in the last video. They weren't going to come out here and try to do us like they did Africa. Okay? They're not going to do that. They couldn't do that. You know why? They had to cope. They had to adjust. This land would not allow them to fully exploit her like that. We as the indigenous, as the land's children, as the land's offspring, had to show them how to properly cultivate the land in order to make a living, in order to survive. They couldn't just come out here and just start building and doing whatever the hell they wanted. That was a no-go. And that's because our mother made sure of that. She would not open her legs for no foreigner. We had to show them how to properly nurture and cultivate and bring forth a harvest. They didn't know shit when they came out here. You hear me? And that's just a simple fact of the matter. All right. So I just wanted to finish that. We're going to be getting into chapter 2, the land and labor and the tobacco colonies. It's going to go a little deeper. All right. We're going to go a little deeper into the book. But yeah. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you guys share. Make sure you guys, if you're new, subscribe. Hit that notification bell under your subscription as well, so you know when these series are being pumped out, and you can be the first one to grab a seat and take notes, or just listen. Even this is just a good listen for you out on the radio or at the house or whatever, man. This is what we do. It ain't stopping, okay? So we're gonna keep on going. Chapter 2 is coming in a few. All right. For now, this is Chief Steve signing off, saying Tatakista, I cherish y'all, and Yokoki. Thank you. See you next time.